The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wrestling to the Max Smackdown Review.
Hello and welcome to the Wrestling to the Max Smackdown Live Review for September 20th, 2016. Of course, this Smackdown was live from the Legacy Arena at the BJCC in Birmingham, Alabama. And with me today, of course, my usual co-host, Mr. Paul Leeser.
Heyo.
And joining us as the third chair for this week, W2Mnet.com staffer, Mr. Brandon Biskobing.
Hello, how's it going, guys?
Alright, man. Well, good to have you back on here. And,
Yep.
Well, SmackDown, I thought it was overall a pretty good show this week. They started out with, seemed like, even though No Mercy is the show that is a couple of weeks away, I felt like they're building a lot for this show. Whereas, with Raw, there was a lot of times where I was wondering if there was a pay-per-view on Sunday. You didn't have that with this show, per se. They started out very fast with Becky Lynch and Alexa Bliss having a contract signing. Alexa Bliss took some shots at Becky, telling Becky she needs to use moisturizer because she's pale. Not as pale as Sheamus or Paige, but, somewhere around there. And, also making other jokes about Becky being a loser and everything else. And they did kind of get into it, but I thought Becky handled herself really well here. And, again, Becky's actually, like I've kind of said a lot, sometimes Becky's sort of, people don't give her enough credit because she actually is pretty good on the mic, and I think she showed it here.
Yeah, I liked how Daniel Bryan, right off the bat, he comes out and he's like, this is supposed to be a classy show, let's not have any shenanigans here, even though everyone knows it's going to happen. But with what you said to start off, how they're building towards No Mercy, I feel like something like this is something, it feels like No Mercy is about to happen this weekend, not Clash of Champions. And I just feel like they're doing all this stuff so quickly that I don't know where they're going to go next week and the week after leading up.
I think it's kind of easy to go where you're going from here. You have the triple threat building up, and so you have Dean Ambrose gives a one-on-one shot. I'm assuming Cena would eventually get a one-on-one shot against AJ Styles on SmackDown. The tag title scene is pretty cut and dry, straightforward from here. The women's title, there's lots of stuff you can work in with the division to keep them fresh, as well as keeping the title match, separate from the show, building towards the pay-per-view. And I think this contract signing was awesome. It might have been one of the better ones I've ever seen in the entire time I've watched wrestling. And Becky comes across as the fiery babyface, and Alexa Bliss is the bully who is trying to cut down Becky at every turn, and physically does so at the end by tipping a table over on her and everything, which is pretty awesome. And I loved the opening segment. I thought it was a great start.
Well, we also need to welcome in a call, the fourth co-host of Wrestling to the Max that calls here and there, but always adds great stuff, Mr. Chris Lemche.
Hey guys, how you guys doing tonight?
What's up, buddy?
Pretty good.
Not much. Just finished SmackDown. I don't, like Paul said, I like the opening contract segment with Becky Balboa and Harley Quinn Bliss.
Imagine if that was a movie.
I probably would have liked Suicide Squad better if she was there. No, I wouldn't. No, yeah, I really like this contract segment because, one, Alexa Bliss talked on the mic, which I don't think she's gotten a chance to really on television yet since she's been on the main roster. So people got a little bit more sense of what her character is. Again, getting Becky more of a chance to speak more too. Because I know people are down on her promos, but like Sean said, she's actually a really good promo person. So, again, start building her up, talking about how she's what makes her a champion. I like those little small details.
Yeah, certainly. I just, if you're going to call her Becky Balboa, she's got to have moments like this where she's, rallying and proving how much she wants something, because that's sort of what everything you get with the Rocky movies and all that. So she definitely comes off as that person you want to root for against someone that's, as Becky points out, like maybe you're not, almost kind of like the Dolphin, like maybe you're more focused on something else instead of actually trying to be champion here. And
to touch on something you said, I do like that how stuff like little mic segments like this is the perfect reason why you couldn't call someone like Becky Balboa, or like when again Mauro Ranallo calling Alexa Bliss like Harley Quinn, but to the audience, who is she? Because we haven't heard her talk at all. It's like when people say Dean Ambrose is a lunatic fringe. What does that mean, or what does it mean for Sasha Banks to be the boss? So yeah, segments like this are the perfect example to establish their characters like that.
Yeah, that's why I always think that, I think Sasha in certain periods has obviously defined what the boss is, or you can get what being the boss is from her demeanor, the way she acts. They're obviously trying to do that with Dean with the lunatic fringe thing, but is so off and on about whether they want him to be crazy or whether they want him to be a goofball or whatever, that perhaps assigning nicknames to people from the word go isn't always the way to do it.
I think
to let them.
Remember when Jeff Hardy was the rainbow-haired warrior?
Oh God.
JR.
The thing about Ambrose and Wyatt fall into the same category of guys that if they were given a longer leash, their characters would work perfectly, but because of the era we're in, it holds them back so much that it doesn't make it feel genuine.
I don't know if it's so much about content. It's I think it's from lack of opportunities. They don't design promos to be exposition about characters. They design promos to try to move stories ahead without giving you a lot of reason or background behind them. And that's something that's super modern that I'm not a fan of.
Oh, I agree with that, but I'm also saying there have clearly been opportunities where you can give, especially, those two are the biggest examples that I would use of you can give them opportunities to show what they're really all about, but because of the way that they've been trying to push that line a little bit over the past couple of years, but they just, when it feels like they're going to push that envelope a little bit more, then they're always like, oh, maybe we're going too far, we have to reel them back in, and it just falls on its face as a result.
Oh, Wyatt, I don't think it's a matter of promo thing. It's just the fact that Wyatt never wins. That's the whole Wyatt fact.
That's a completely different
he
story.
he can't even beat last minute Kane, for God's sakes.
That is the biggest thing about him. Yes, I agree with that.
Well, that was a distraction finish, so that's sort of why that happened.
I'm still counting that. The fact that Wyatt can't beat last minute Kane, it's just like, seriously?
And then he proceeds to call himself a god.
Yeah, that's the thing. People would probably be able to stomach his, I'm going to say things that are going to go over your head promos, but you're going to remember the, last 10 words I say if he won more.
Yeah.
But I can't take you seriously as the face of fear if there's no reason why I need to fear you.
Yeah, exactly. If you're gonna lose all the time, I mean, let's put it this way: if the Undertaker lost 75% of his feuds in the first year or in the first couple of years that he was in the WWE, he wouldn't have become the Phenom. He wouldn't have become what he is. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, Bray Wyatt has the same type of character in the sense that you need wins in order to make yourself legitimate.
Well, that goes for pretty much anybody, though.
Well, yes, but especially with someone who is supposedly supposed to be acting as if he's some sort of supernatural being or whatever, he's the face of fear, all of that. Especially with that, like, at least with someone like, you know, like use Dean Ambrose as an example. At least with him, you know, if he's like he could be like the new Mick Foley where he's losing, but he's putting himself through so much brutality and all of this that him losing is more of an experience than him winning because you want to see what he's willing to do next. So there are definitely people that you can lose while still making a good match and having it be something that people want to see, and it won't hurt your character.
You have a point. So I think we kind of got that was all to the first women's thing that they had on the show. They did have another sort of women's storyline to continue the Nikki Bella and Carmella deal that's been going on, and to be fair, I mean, at least they've been building this thing on a consistent basis. Like almost every week, they have something going on with these two. And so you sort of have a Bad Stage segment where Naomi gets to talk about her, I guess, why she has the entrance she does, calling it the glow. And
Feel the glow, Sean.
Yeah, feel the glow. And Nikki, of course, trying to figure out why the heck it is that Carmella has a problem with her. And then basically Carmella just comes out and takes out Nikki. And then there's a DQ. And Carmella's happy about what she did and she runs off. So maybe that wasn't exactly what they wanted to do, but I still think that this kind of worked.
I think it works perfectly, and this is one of the reasons why I prefer SmackDown over Raw, because the things you just mentioned, that's every single woman on SmackDown, and they're doing something with them. Every single woman on SmackDown has a character. There's a motivation there. They all have little storylines going on. Whereas on Raw, I can't remember the last time Summer was on TV. We don't know what's going on with Paige. Alicia Fox finally showed back up a couple weeks ago. But on SmackDown, again, every single one of them has a character, and they could each be into a title picture whenever they wanted to.
Well, that's the irony of the paradox between Raw and SmackDown is SmackDown is supposed to be the smaller show, less time for everyone. Yes, on a ratioed level, Raw and SmackDown have the same sized rosters, but yet it feels like more of the undercard is being used on SmackDown than it is on Raw. And I think that plays a lot to the fact that, as we've mentioned, SmackDown is more of the wrestling show that focuses on the entire roster, whereas Raw almost exclusively focuses on the main event and what's going on with the quote-unquote authority figures, whoever it may be.
All right, Raw also came out of the draft with 3/4 of the established characters on television, and SmackDown got 7 guys and everybody they weren't using. There's a lot of work to be done over here, and I think they've done a superb job at building up parts of it. The women's division, I think, is the bright spot of the rebuild project here, because all of them, as Chris said, has gotten time to build characters. Earlier in this episode, we got to hear Naomi, sort of talk about what the glow is, which is helpful to building that up. She has some issues
and she
with
also
Natty.
laid seeds. Yeah, she laid seeds for her issues with Natty too. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Carmella is, seemingly on a one-woman warpath to kill Nikki, and I don't have a problem with that, but it's something for them to do. They're all doing something, and like Chris said too, they can easily slot into a women's title feud at any moment.
Yeah, and then even when Eva Marie probably comes back next week, she already had something she was doing. So I don't know how they.
Yeah, she's on vacation.
Right. I mean, but she was even before then. They were building her up to, oh my gosh, she's supposed to be this great thing, but every week she figures out a way not to be there or not to participate. Well, I mean, I don't know how they're going to kind of slide back into that next week, but she even had something she was doing. So, it proves a lot. I also think that Paul brought up a good point that do they really have to spend time establishing characters that are already established on Raw over there? I mean, if you already know who most of these people are, do you really need to sit there and give exposition for these people that you know who they are? You just need to see them wrestling.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with that, but I'm just saying on the basis of, you can still use the fact that they're using everyone and giving everyone some airtime to do something on a 2-hour show when a 3-hour show can't do that with everyone. That shows that they're focused on everyone more than, whereas Raw is just focused on maybe like 10 guys.
Right. That's why a lot of times they have just stuff that really feels like filler.
Yeah.
Even though they have the extra hour to tell.
And not to mention, they have all these squash matches now.
Right, so they can waste time. Because they don't have a way to try to really tell stories with these people that they weren't using in big roles before. Like where SmackDown just says, okay, look, we've got these people, we got a small roster, we've got to figure out how to make everybody sort of feel important. And they're doing that. And I also think we need to look at who's writing these shows, right? Like supposedly we have the guy that was doing NXT over here on SmackDown. So this makes total sense because everybody that's somebody on NXT, they usually involve them in some kind of storyline. So now they've kind of gotten away from it a little bit with him not there. But when he was there, you saw that, right? So he's sort of taking that mold and bringing it over here to SmackDown, and that's kind of why we have what we have. But that being said, you still have one person who does not fit that mold that we're talking about here, and that's Apollo Crews, who once again gets basically squashed by Baron Corbin. And that's also, we can lead into Baron Corbin and Jack Swagger, who I thought Jack Swagger was pretty good on commentary, stating why he was there, his whole reason why he left Raw, and that's what you need. You need to understand why Swagger is on SmackDown now. Why would he just leave what everybody thinks is the A show to come over to SmackDown? And, he, in a concise way, told you. Wanted somebody.
Yeah, I definitely like this segment. I don't like how they're using Apollo Crews, though. I wish he would get at least a little more done and whatnot. But, this is a good way and an interesting storyline of Swagger leaving Raw and saying, hey, I'd rather be here. There's more opportunities for me here, so I'm here now. So I think it's definitely an interesting thing to have happen. And what would be curious to me to see is maybe they do something similar with either Cesaro or Sheamus, whoever loses that best of 7 series, saying, hey, Swagger did it, why can't I?
Maybe. Honestly, I wouldn't have a problem with it because there is a gap over here now with Del Rio gone near the top of the card, and a Sheamus or Cesaro could easily slot in there. But I think with what you got going on here is simply just a way to get Corbin over. Cruz is in here to do that, who's a guy who has not been on the good side of the revamp project because he still has absolutely zero character. There's no reason to get attached to him, and other than looking awesome in the ring, there's nothing else outside of that package. Corbin, on the other hand,
he has a character. He's a smiling black man. That's character.
I mean, what am I? I mean, you've been getting over on that for years, haven't you, Chris?
Yeah, exactly. It's the best character to have.
Oh my god. Well, you normally have more of the other variety, so why not? I guess. But go ahead, Paul. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, Swagger. I mean, ultimately, I think Swagger's just here to make Corbin look good. But if they actually do something with him afterwards, good on him.
That's my thought process with this whole thing too. It's just another person for Baron Corbin to beat, just so they can say, oh, he's beaten the former world champion. And if they do something with Jack Swagger, that's all good. Because I always did like Jack Swagger, and I never thought that he should have always been pushed to the back burner. Because let's face it, until the Swagger feud, that was the thing that really helped Rusev along. So maybe if that same kind of thing could transfer over to Baron Corbin, that'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the U.S. versus Russia dynamic that sort of helped that along too.
Well, I mean, the sense that before the Swagger feud, Rusev was just like a squashing guy. Nobody really knew how he can go in the ring, and that sort of sense, like ring wise.
Yeah, you make a good point on that one. I think it's certainly and it kind of makes sense because Baron Corbin is sort of this guy that he wants to be I want to be anybody that kind of gets in my way or thinks they're better than me, I'm going to knock them out. And that's sort of what's happening here with Swagger, where Baron Corbin kind of feels like Swagger's stepping on his territory, and okay, you're the next one. And it doesn't need a lot of exposition sometimes. Just, you got two dudes, they want to go at it. All right.
It's better than what they were teasing of him and Kane, let's be honest there.
Right.
Yeah.
You were saying something, Brandon. I don't.
Oh well, I was just gonna say that, like, yes, I agree with what you guys are saying about Swagger being a good option to put Corbin over, but at the same time, I think Swagger, I think he needs to get a couple of wins under his belt to make that seem like a bigger win, because at this point in his career and with the way he's been used lately, Swagger, yes, he still has that persona of, I was an NCAA champion, I was a world champion, all of this, but it doesn't seem like he has that same sort of pull that he had in the past where, okay, you beat Jack Swagger, you be a lower mid-card guy, big whoop.
Yeah, certainly. And, we'll have to see how they use Swagger past that here. But, one thing that they sort of announced at the last minute was that Chad Gable was fine to come back, and so you have a number one contenders match between the Usos and American Alpha, of course, playing off their little feud that they had in the tournament. And the Usos win here to continue their we're heels and we're going to sit here and take them out, especially when, Gable he wanted to take it to these guys and he didn't want to tag out. So being a little bit being prideful kind of hurt him in the end. But I think that what they've done with the Usos here, it's small steps, especially once you get to the hilarious, but I think it worked, Backstage 7 with them and Slater and Rhino. I think you kind of got a little bit of what they're going to do here with the Usos. Yeah, they're sort of bully characters, but I'm cool with that. It gets them to do something different, and Rhino I'm going to crunch chips. and then stay in front of Slater. That's my complete way to get you to back off. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, this was a good match in the sense that you knew what the Usos were going to do, especially with how their new characters are. Just going after Chad Gable's leg the whole match, and then Jason Jordan trying to be the hero for the team and say, I know you're injured, I'm going to put this on my back and try to win it for both of us. And he couldn't do it, but it was still a good match on that level of seeing that dynamic. And then, yeah, the Usos, they're definitely more interesting now than they were as faces, that's for sure.
Go ahead, Chris.
No, I like this whole segment, like the tag match and the backstage segment all together is really, really good. I like the evolution or the de-evolution of the Usos, changing everything to get rid of the paint. They're not doing the little dance anymore. They're being healed, which is good. One little side note with this match, it made me realize you have to get David Otunga off commentary. He kept bringing it up. Oh God, what was it? He was on set with their dad, and he kept asking questions. And he kept bringing that up, and it never went anywhere. I feel like Morrow and JBL were just ignoring that fact. I was thinking, by the 13th brought it up, I was like, Jesus, dude, shut up about being on set for Rikishi, all right?
well, he kept on bringing it up, and he said he asked about their new attitude, but then he never said what Rikishi said regarding it. So that was the big thing. Like, if he would have said it from the get-go and said, I was on the set with Rikishi, talked to him about, about the Usos' new attitude, and this is what he thought, then I'd be fine with it. But he kept on repeating it without using it at all. There were some times that it seemed like maybe Morrow and JBL interrupted him and kind of stopped him from continuing it. But even when they didn't interrupt him, there was no finish to it. He didn't actually say anything regarding it. So I agree with you on that.
Yeah. And also, too, another thing I appreciate with the Usos, they changed their ring style, too. They're not wrestling the same anymore. Which is, like, again, those small little intricacies that work so brilliantly. And, again, yeah, everything that's going on with the Usos is great. And I like the fact that you can tell that these two teams are holding back because we're going to get some big program with them later on in the year with them.
Yeah, I mean, but even with them holding back, this was still an extremely well-worked match because there's so much psychology going on in it that it just plays out really well on your TV screen. With them working the injury, Jordan realizing Gable's injured and decides to stay in the ring, and that ultimately cost him the match. What a bunch of dicks the Usos are, right? The only thing the Usos really need, I hope CFO is working on a new theme for them. They really need something to match the new style that they're working, and I hope they get that out.
They should use Rikishi's heel team, Bad Man.
That would be great.
I'd be okay with that, to be honest.
I guess they'd have to change it to "We're bad men doing bad things," and however that song goes.
That'd be simple, but it would work, right, for them. We should all get on to that petition for CFO. And hey, nobody's using that song anymore. Just do it, So another little small thing that they had was Randy Orton and Eric Rowan that was made from last week. Orton wins, as you'd expect. Eric Rowan probably got a little bit too much offense, but I don't know. I guess they're sort of... Eric Rowan's a big guy, so they don't want him just getting squashed like that, which I guess is fine. Wyatt comes in and, as Brandon alluded to earlier, calls himself a god and tells Orton to run as usual. Yeah, I mean, whatever. It's a segment. It works. You move the story along. Just the thing is, they kind of blew their wad with the Wyatt and Orton thing already, and they're just kind of really just moseying this along because they don't have anything else for them to really do.
Well, and like I mentioned earlier, anything Wyatt related just feels so stale and just so disgenuine at this point because and I've been saying it for months now, unless they make a big change and actually have him win, Wyatt's just going to be looked at as a joke. And it's even more of a joke now after, like, I don't know how long he's been doing it. He's been doing it for, like, the last month and a half or something like that, calling himself a god and all of this. And it doesn't feel... It just feels so forced, especially with him losing, that I just don't know what they can do with him to save him at this point.
Well, I'm thinking that Luke Harper's returning soon, so that would definitely help out Wyatt a little bit.
Yeah.
My guess is Luke Harper returns at No Mercy, and that's how Wyatt beat Orton. So,
I mean, that's fine too. Harper on SmackDown also adds another tag team, and Harper and Rowan tag team matches are just awesome. So I'm all on board for that train. Honestly, Bray really needs to do something to make himself stick out even more. And the great promos aside, him just constantly beating up Orton every week, I would be on board for that. Yeah. Just beat him up, hurt him, beat him up so bad he can't make No Mercy again, and work that into the story because you need a reason for everybody else to be afraid of you. You need a reason to escalate him up the ladder. And if you take Orton off TV for a little bit, it might actually help him look threatening.
Yeah.
Well, don't worry, Paul. Orton's facing Brock this week, and so maybe he won't make No Mercy again. So
there you go. Yeah, there you go.
You never know. They choose when they want to actually put storylines in the house shows or not. You know, it's just, to me, it's mind-boggling. They had an opportunity to totally reset Wyatt and really get people behind him. Even on that first SmackDown show, you had people really behind him, and they just completely missed the boat. And
well,
go ahead.
They've missed the boat with Wyatt his whole career.
Well, there was times where they could have done it. They just didn't. But again, it's a fresh idea, right? It's a fresh start for him. He started wearing the hoodie thing, all that, and then you're just we're back to the same Bray Wyatt, and it's okay. I guess now we're just going to reunite the Wyatt family and let's see what happens. Just who knows? I think Braun has kind of established himself as a singles guy. I don't see the need for Luke Harper to go over there. And I mean, yeah, you could always use another tag team on Raw, but
no, Harper needs to go to SmackDown. Yeah, There's too many people on Raw.
I agree. Now with the cruiserweights,
Not to mention, I'd really love to see Harper and Rowan versus American Alpha.
Yeah, I would too. Yeah. I'd love to see that. Them working the big man team is always going to be a good thing.
I mean, it would help with the tag team division because despite the fact how they're using the Usos now, there's really only 3 teams right now that are a legitimate threat to for the tag team title. Well, 3 teams that are in the picture of the tag team titles, and I know some people have said that they actually prefer the SmackDown tag team division, but I just can't get behind the tag team division. And you've got so many other teams that were used so well back in NXT and now haven't done anything on the main roster that it's really disappointing. This tag team division could have been very promising, very powerful, very fun to watch, but then they create this new tag team with the whole Slater thing, and then you stick with the same old Usos, and once again, teams like the Vaudevillains, team like the Ascension get left by the wayside.
Both those teams were dead on arrival to the main roster, though. Like, they did not give the Ascension a chance. Vaudevillains were not given a chance.
Oh, I know that, but I'm just saying the brand split and them going to SmackDown, it could have revitalized their careers. That's what I was hoping, at least.
I'm saying that some people and some acts were already dead and buried 6 feet under before they even made the SmackDown. The Ascension was one of them.
Yeah.
And also, on the Raw side, the Shining Stars as well. Come to Puerto Rico, where we can't get over.
Everyone knew that they were going to be dead in the water right from the get-go. No one took them seriously.
Someday we'll do this show from Puerto Rico, guys. Just watch.
It's going to happen.
Well, it didn't end well for Brody, so let's hope it ends well for us.
Oh, made myself sad.
Oh. Well, the two things they sort of focused on for this show, one of them being the IC title rematch between Dolph and Miz, and Dolph sort of gets a little interview with Renee where he brings up that he shouldn't have been Kent State Hall of Famer, he shouldn't have done this, but now he has won those things, and now he's going to go out there and prove that he should be IC champion. I think there's another segment with Miz and Bryan as well, where Miz tries to get out of the match, and Bryan's like, well, we can just void your new contract extension that we just made if you don't go out there and have the match, and he gets angry. And so we have this match that to me was every bit as good as the one at Backlash. They kind of took everything that worked, and they had just as much amount of time. And just, again, this is awesome. These two really know how to work well with each other. The Miz knows how to put in those spots, the Bryan spots, so that it gets him heat, and of course it gets Bryan upset at him. And then you really put Miz over here by having Miz win even after you take Maurice away, which makes him look really strong. And I don't know if they're going to continue this with Dolph or not, but now whoever's facing Miz looks legit.
I mean, they pretty much have to now at this point, though, because there's really only one way that I see this ending, and I really hope that it does not just end like this, like you're saying, Sean, and they move on to someone else who I don't really even know who else they would move on to for the IC title. But there's really only one way, especially with the same thing happening again. I see it ending in one of three ways. You either have them have a steel cage match where there's no chance of interference. You have an Extreme Rules match where anything goes and they can use any weapons or anything they want. Or you do old school, you have like the hairspray or whatever it is that Maurice and Miz have been using. You have that on a pole or like hanging above the ring in a ladder match type of match. That's the only way I see this ending without it just making Miz look weaker than he already did. In the sense of they've had two great matches that you could have, I mean, maybe not quite match of the year level, but they were good, solid 4-star matches, and then you have him take the cheap way out, even on this level, even without Maurice. You have him take the cheap way out, and he just looks incredibly weak as a champion.
Yeah. I mean, what do you guys think about this?
I wouldn't say he looked weak. I mean, he kicked out of the zigzag. He did kick out of Dolph's finish. That's pretty strong. I mean, granted, yeah, the finish is a little bit weak, but again, this is a heel, so it's building up more of his heel character. And Yeah, I'd say we get probably the blow off at No Mercy. I don't know how I'd feel about a hairspray on a pole match, but I know somebody in New York would like that, bro.
But I mean, it's pretty much like what we were saying about Seth Rollins for, you know, however many months he held the WWE title with the Authority, where it was, oh, he's looking really strong, but he can never win clean. He can never win on his own. And we were just waiting for that time that he would finally win clean, and he would solidify the fact that he is legitimate.
Miz beat Apollo Crews clean at SummerSlam, though. I mean, he's had his like strong moments in and there.
Yeah, I mean, the Miz personally to me has looked really good. He's looked like good. I mean, and good in the sense of being a great heel, and that he's taking cheap shots and shortcuts and all this other stuff that makes heels really fun to watch. And for me, this feels like this is. I mean, it's going to No Mercy because Dolph has to get the rematch because both he and Daniel Bryan saw Miz take the cheap way out again, and that's what the feud is about. Is the Miz wants to be considered credible, but he keeps cheating to win.
But that's what I'm saying. I feel like if you just stick him, like if you just give Ziggler another just regular rematch without any sort of stipulation that avoids Miz from pulling any cheap stuff, then you're just going into the match knowing what's going to happen. There's no anticipation.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's another singles one-on-one straight-up match. It's going to be a stip match. I think just with Daniel Bryan being around, though, they're going to make it an I Quit match. I think there has to be some way to work in what Daniel Bryan and all this is, and he's about submissions, he's about technical wrestling, and there's no better way than to let a wrestler show that he's legitimate than dragging out...
not a coward.
And not a coward in an I Quit match, yeah. That's where they go.
That's actually a very good point. I could definitely see that. Yeah.
Also, the thing about with the way Miz wins matches and stuff, like, you know, the cheating and it makes him look weak, to me, it works in the sense that because whoever finally beats him, it's going to matter.
Yeah.
Like, it's brilliant what they've been doing with the Miz since they won the belt. He's actually put, surprisingly, I don't think anyone ever thought the Miz would do this, but he's put the belt in more of a prominence than it's been in years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and I think they're saving it for one of the young guns that they got coming up. Maybe a Corbin or something like that. But somebody, yeah, like you said, whoever beats them, they're going to get a pretty good rub.
I just hope that they don't let, you know, like you said, Paul. I just hope that they actually put some sort of stipulation, even if you still have Miz win it against Ziggler at No Mercy. You have to have some sort of stipulation so that they can move on from this. Because if he keeps on cheating, then Ziggler... There's no way that Ziggler's just going to walk away from it.
Yeah, I mean, the match and the whole feud deserves a blow-off. It's in my opinion, it's probably the best thing on WWE television right now.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed this thing with Ziggler and Miz. For me, it's... Sorry, I'm sort of distracted there. He's our person that our website editor is working on the site, and it looks really weird. So I got distracted for a second. This whole thing with Dolph and Miz, we kind of were poo-pooing it at first because we're like, oh, we've seen this match so many times. You know, we've seen these guys. Like, are they really going to be able to make this something different? And they've really made Dolph feel like, okay, this might be that time. Well, he didn't get to win this time. Is this the end for this feud? I don't know. I'd assume you're at least going to have one more at No Mercy.
You gotta have one more at No Mercy. You've got to do what Paul and I have been saying in order to end this. You have to have it a stipulation match where even if he doesn't officially fully win clean, if you're gonna have Miz continue as the champion, you have to give Bryan and Shane and Dolph a reason to say we've got to move on. Because if Miz continues to cheat, then especially with the heat between Miz and Bryan's just going to keep on saying, you cheated, I'm just going to put you in another match against Ziggler and put more and more stipulations on to force it to where Miz can't cheat. The other way I could think of it is put a stipulation like they did, it was Orton against Christian back in 2012, where if Orton got disqualified, Christian got the title. I think you have to do something like that.
That wouldn't be bad, especially because the other rumor going around was they were going to have a cage match at No Mercy.
Well, that could work too. I was hoping that was going to happen tonight.
But you know, WWE, they can't help themselves. We already had a triple threat match set for the main event for No Mercy. Well, we had to do one for the women on the Raw pay-per-view because, you know, whatever. The Raw show has to have it first. And then the same thing with the cage match on Raw. It seemed like everything was destined to, okay, Miz keeps being a coward, he keeps doing all this. Well, how do we lock Maurice out to where she can't come in? Oh, well, cage makes sense. Oh, wait, we're going to do that on Raw instead.
That's what I was expecting. I was expecting it, we did a cage match on Raw. Why not let's do one on SmackDown the next night, too?
Well, I mean, they could still do it at the pay-per-view, obviously.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
But, you know, maybe they really haven't done one of those stipulations in a while. And with Miz's character the way it is, and sort of the way you've used Dolph all these years, it sort of wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
Well, you've got to do some sort of stipulation to end this.
If you had to take a preference, Paul, which one?
But like, what stip?
Does either one of those two work that we've been talking about? Either a cage or a match where if Maurice gets involved or some kind of disqualification happens, Dolph gets the title?
I mean, I think the second one would work better for the story. I don't really see cage matches, like I said on Raw, they're so blasé for me now. Like, there's that middle ground of I don't care. Just because you have Hell in a Cell now, and that's sort of like the next evolution of everything, and whatever. But, I mean, a cage match would be fine, too. I think I Quit would work better, personally.
I think one of those three would work. Either an I Quit match, a match with the stipulation where if Miz gets disqualified or Maurice does something, then Ziggler gets the title. Or a cage match, because while, yes, cage matches are a little blasé now, as Paul said, it plays into Miz's character of, I want to just leave. I don't want to be a part of this. So he's going to try to escape right off the bat. And, I would even maybe say, have him pull some sort of stunt, or have Maurice pull some sort of stunt to get Ziggler trapped somewhere on the cage, have handcuffs or something, and have Miz escape very easily. But then Daniel Bryan coming out saying, no, you go into the back, and we're restarting this match. Something like that. You could do so many things with this. But I'm worried that they're not going to do much of anything. But I'm hoping I'm wrong.
Yeah. And the last thing that they sort of covered here was the Dean Ambrose and John Cena deal from the week before, where you now have a triple threat match at No Mercy. So sort of we're going to try to prove who's better kind of thing, because Ambrose and Cena had a war of words. I didn't think the match was anything too spectacular, whatever. Miz and Dolph certainly carried match of the night honors by a mile, but Dean Ambrose wins, and no shenanigans, he just wins. I was surprised.
Yeah, I mean, yes, we all understand that Cena's kind of, on the downturn and he's going to take a break. He's focused on other things, yada, yada, yada. But still, the fact that they allowed Ambrose to win clean is a good sign for Ambrose, and it shows that they have faith in him and that hopefully he'll get at least a few more title runs. If not now, then definitely down the road. I'm certainly hoping that he wins the title back next week. I like how they're doing, and I know that some people complain because, you don't get the big payday, but the WWE doesn't really care anymore because of the network. I like how they're doing bigger matches. They're doing title matches on Raw and SmackDown so that there's actually a reason for you to tune in every week.
Are you all surprised by the result here?
No, the result makes sense, given that it's leading to the one-on-one title match next week with AJ. And again, it adds to the story with John Cena. Yeah, he's part-time now. Is he losing it? Is he losing his ring rust? Does he really want this anymore? It just adds an extra layer to the John Cena character. It's like it casts more doubt on him. Does he have it anymore to win the belt at No Mercy or not? And like Paul said too, I'm assuming this is going to lead to the go home show. Like next week, it's going to be Ambrose and AJ, and the go home will probably be Cena and AJ.
The only thing about that is I don't understand. Like, why does Cena deserve a one-on-one title shot?
Because he's John Cena. That's it.
That's about all the reason I think they need at this point too. But there's a week buffer in between before you get to the go home, so I'm sure they will do something there.
Yeah,
I think it's just 2 weeks, yeah. Because after Clash, it's 2 weeks to No Mercy. Right.
So the SmackDown, they have like 1 week. That SmackDown after this week coming up is the one that with the go home. So they have one more.
Yeah, so that's where I think they'll lose Cena and AJ, and then they'll have the big schmoz for the build to the triple threat.
Yeah, because they'll have Ambrose AJ for the next year.
I'm sure absolutely none of it will end clean at all. So.
Oh, of course.
Probably not. Probably. And triple threat matches to have no DQ, so we'll have to see how that goes when they get to it. But AJ gets to stand tall at the end, or Ambrose gets to stand tall on the end at AJ. He hit the dirty deeds after AJ kind of knocked everybody out, and D-Bry was like, well, next week y'all are having that rematch. It's kind of like what we talked about, that they would do that rematch on SmackDown and then kind of head into something for No Mercy. So, all right, well, that's SmackDown, guys. What would you think of for a rating?
I would give it a 7. It was good, but there were definitely things that they could have done a little better. I would have liked, I'm assuming they'll talk more about it next week, but I definitely would have liked to have seen more between Bryan and Miz. Bryan maybe, announcing the match for No Mercy, or even, some sort of stipulation. Like, you could even continue to build bigger and bigger stipulations as you progress over these next 2 weeks leading into No Mercy. But that's the only thing that I would say dropped it in my book.
I'd give it a 7.5 out of 10. The Orton and Rowan match is kind of just there, and again, Cena and Ambrose was a bit disappointing for what was touted the first time ever match. But everything else is just solid. I'm liking the build to No Mercy. They're not showing too much, which is good because again, they still like No Mercy this Sunday, so they're having a nice steady road to it instead of just throwing everything out at the gate.
I completely agree with that. And the rating, 7.5. Everything on this show came at you with purpose. It may not have been serious purpose, but it all had a point of building towards No Mercy. 2 hours very well spent by the WWE here.
Agreed. I was going to go with 7.5 as well. You know, Paul kind of hit it. Everything that you saw on this show mattered. And then you go into the next show, and it seems like a lot more of it's going to matter. So you progress almost all these storylines. You now have basically your title matches sort of seem to be set. You know you're going to get at least one more with Miz and Dolph. The triple threat is set. The tag title match is set. The women's match is also set with the contract signing. So now you have your main matches set. What are they going to do with them going forward to kind of further their stories until you get to that No Mercy show? That's what's going to make it interesting. And I'm always for having your main matches set beforehand, not just having them all set the week before. So
Exactly.
good on SmackDown for giving them time to promote things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that's going to do it for us on the SmackDown review. I want to say thank you to Chris and Brandon for helping us out on this one. And yeah, just check out everything on WTM Network. Subscribe if you care, if you like what you heard here. You know, if you subscribe there, you get all of our great podcasts, not just this one, even though you can just subscribe to the rest of the Max by itself. But you get, you know, the football podcasts and video games podcasts. You get Paul's Wrestling Time Machine, which, you know, you should get the next episode of this week, right, Paul?
That is true.
So, and yeah, just be checking. Of course, go to WTMnet.com for all of our review content. We're going to have previews on the New Japan Tokyo show that's happening on Thursday, and then, of course, of the Clash of Champions show that happens on the weekend. So look out for those. And yeah, until we see you again on the Friday show, where we'll be previewing, we'll be discussing both the New Japan shows that have happened, and of course also talking about previewing the Clash of Champions, and of course what's going on in TNA and NXT, and no Cruiserweight Classic, but we do got Lucha Underground, so plenty of stuff to discuss on that episode, and you can join us next time for that. And until then, everybody, see you later.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.